Well, 2023 has been another stellar year for the BBC, collapsing viewing figures, hemorrhaging licence fee payers, and a projected budget deficit of £400 million by 2027.
The BBC is like the childhood sweetheart that you bump into 20 years later and find out she's got 3 kids. The years haven't been kind and she's addicted to crack.
The BBC used to produce incredible programming, comedies, dramas, documentaries, sports. Nowadays, the most interesting content the BBC creates is its presenters' demented behaviour. Whether it's Gary Lineker comparing a Conservative government to the Nazis, or news presenter Hugh Edwards sexting 17-year-olds.
Hugh Edwards was one of the most respected BBC news presenters and a stalwart of the corporation. There was widespread disappointment in the BBC at his conduct with a 17-year-old. As that's actually a bit old for their presenters.
Exactly. It's deeply hypocritical for the BBC to discipline Hugh Edwards for a bit of alleged digital nonsense, when actually all he was doing was celebrating BBC culture. Seriously, outside the BBC headquarters is a sculpture by Eric Gill, who was a notorious paedophile and abuser. The BBC were asked to take the sculpture down, but they refused because the BBC is loyal to its heroes.
You know your organisation is toxic when all your presenters have to come out to deny they're a nonce. We basically had 2 weeks of a celebrity pedo version of Guess Who.
Which ironically is the most popular thing the BBC produced this year. But it wasn't the only scandal to rock the organisation in 2023. Gary Lineker compared Conservative politician Suella Braverman to a Nazi. Because if there's one thing we know about Hitler, is he was a big fan of brown women who were married to Jews.
Wanting to stop illegal immigration is now seen on a par with advocating for the extermination of the Jewish race. Which is weird, because the BBC has no problem with the extermination of the Jewish race.
Yeah, they refuse to call Hamas a terrorist organisation, despite the fact that the British government calls them terrorists, and one of their stated aims is the obliteration of Israel.
Plus, their actions during October the 7th were a bit terroristy, if you know what I mean. Veteran BBC News reporter John Simpson explained why the BBC refused to call Hamas terrorists, and in his own words, it's because I fucking love them and everything they're doing to eliminate the Zionist pig dogs.
Francis, did he actually say that?
Well, no. His argument was that the BBC's MO is to present their viewers with the facts about a particular situation and then allow the viewers to make up their own mind. In his words, we don't take sides.
And there was me thinking the BBC no longer did good comedy, because obviously not taking sides is what they did with Trump, Brexit, COVID, climate change, immigration, and now the Middle East.
So it does look slightly dodgy if you're prepared to be biased on a highly contentious issue like Brexit, but refusing to label an organisation that committed mass slaughter terrorists.
Couple that with the fact that the quality of the content has gone downhill quicker than Hugh Edwards' chances of a second career as a babysitter, and things are looking pretty bleak for a once beloved institution.
The cherry on top of the giant turd that has been 2023 was BBC News presenter Mariam Moshiri giving viewers the finger at the start of a news broadcast.
Moshiri defended herself by saying that it was a private joke with colleagues and she hadn't meant to flip the bird to the BBC's viewers.
No one noticed it originally, as all the viewers were either sleeping or brain dead. It's only because it went viral on Twitter that the incident started to gain some traction.
The Conservative Party even tried to write a funny tweet about it, proving yet again that Conservatives are good at many things, but they'll always be rubbish at comedy.
Plus, I don't think the Conservative Party are in any position to be lecturing anyone about illegal immigration. The Conservatives have let more dodgy people in than the BBC, although I doubt many of those men coming on the boats will raise as much money for spinal charities as Jimmy Savile.
So roll on 2024 when we'll have the UK general election and the 2024 presidential election in America. Plenty of time and opportunity for our beloved state broadcaster to sink even further into the quagmire. And with that, goodbye. Do you remember the Canadian trucker protests in 2022, where thousands of Canadians came out to protest COVID restrictions and vaccine mandates?
Now, these protests lasted for weeks, and the people out on the streets needed funds, as any grassroots protest would. So people set up online crowdfunding campaigns which raised millions of dollars. Incredible! But those campaigns were closed down, and the money didn't get to the protesters because the Canadian authorities started to criticise the crowdfunding platforms. ramping up pressure on them to close the campaigns. The biggest crowdfunding platform, the one we've all heard of, completely capitulated to their demands.
Now, this is where our partners GiveSendGo come in. They stepped in when the other platforms backed off and raised millions of dollars for the truckers. When they were criticized and dragged through the Canadian courts, GiveSendGo came out and said, quote, "We respect diverse views and believe hope and freedom are values worth fighting for. This is why we're proud to partner with GiveSendGo." So if you need to crowdfund for whatever means the most to you, then don't go to the big tech platforms. We recommend you do it on GiveSendGo.
Starting a campaign on GiveSendGo is easy and intuitive. Go to GiveSendGo.com today.
That's GiveSendGo.com to start raising money for whatever's important to you.
If you enjoyed this, then click here to check out Konstantin's monologue on the BBC racism scandal.